Go. Okay. We have Vav Hey. Whether one consecrates his property or one vows to own Eric, he has nothing of his wife's clothing or of his children's clothing or of the dyed garments that he dyed for them or the new shoes that he bought for them. Although they said slaves are sold with their garments to enhance their value, if clothing is purchased for him for 30 dinars, his value increases a mana. And so it is with a cow. If they hold it until the market day, its value increases, and so is with a pearl. If they bring it up to the large city, its value increases, and the temple treasury has only its place and time. One does not consecrate ancestral land less than 2 years before the Yovel, nor does one redeem it less than a year after the Yovel. One does not reckon months in respect to the temple treasury, but the temple treasury reckons months. If one consecrates his field at the time of Yovel, he gives for an area in which a chomer of barley may be sown 50 shekels, 50 silver shekels. If there were clefts 10 tefachim deep, or rocks 10 tefachim high, they are not measured with it, or if they are less than that, they are measured with it. If he measured it 2 or 3 years before the Yovel, he gives a seller an opinion per year. If he said, I will give the amount for each year, in that year we pay him no heed, but he must give it all at once. This applies to both the owner and any other person. What is the difference between the owner and any other person? Only that the owner gives an additional fifth, whereas any other person does not give a fifth. Okay.
All right, now we're going to see the difference here between an ancestral field and a purchased field in the halacha of hekdesh. Okay, Mishna Gimel hekdisha ugeala. What happens if he sanctified it and then subsequently redeemed it? Then it stays as part of his ancestral property in the Yovel, right? And if he subsequently sold it, it'll return to him. It never leaves him. What happens if his son did the redemption? Okay, because his son is part of his property, is part of his inheritance line. Yota la'aviv b'yovel. Then it will return to his father in the Yovel because his son is part of his inheritance line. Now, what if an unrelated person saw, hey, this property is in hekdesh, I'll redeem it and I'll work it until the Yovel. Now comes the Yovel, Gala acher or echad min akrovim, or one of his relatives, miado, and he came and redeemed it from them. Once again, Ena yotza miado b'Yovel. As long as he comes and redeems it back from them before Yovel, nothing happens to the field. It comes back to his ancestral property. Now, what happens if a Kohen decides, hey, I've got some money come to my hand? You know, Kohanim don't have ancestral property naturally, right? That's what says they don't have natural inherited property. But one Kohen has got some money and he says, okay, I'm going to redeem this field. And comes the Yovel, and nobody came to redeem it from him. So now, what would normally happen is, well, we'll see, is that it would be divided up among the Kohanim who are on the Mishmar at the time of Yom Kippur after the Yovel. But this Kohen thinks he's going to get himself pole position to grab hold of this field in the Yovel. So he redeems it before the Yovel, and now it's still in his hands. Since it's going to the Kohanim anyway, I've already got it over here. I've taken it. It's going to be Harei Shali. It's my field now. I'm no worse than any other Kohen, and since it was in my possession, let it belong to me from now on. No, it gets divvied up among all of the Kohanim who are on the Mishmar that's working on Rosh Hashanah after the Yovel, of the Yovel, sorry, and there are those who are of the opinion that it's on Yom Kippur, not on Rosh Hashanah. Okay, Dalid Higia Hayovel V'lo Nigala. What happens if the field has not been redeemed by the Yovel? A Kohanim nichnasim letocha. Then the Kohanim who are on duty, they get to walk in and take possession of this land. V'nosnim istamea divrei Rabbi Yehuda. But Rabbi Yehuda says no, but it doesn't ever leave hekdesh for free. because the Kohanim are taking it over. They themselves have to pay the value to the Mikdash. You can't just get it free from the temple. Thus says Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Shimon Omer Nichnasim aval lo nosnim. He says it's a freebie. This is something that the Torah gave them, and therefore they don't have to pay. Rabbi Eliezer Omer lo nichnasim velo nosnin. He says, nah, you're jumping the gun. They're getting you're giving the property before it really should fall to them. Ela nikres stay retushin. It's called an abandoned field. Ad Yovel Hasheni. Give it another 50 years. Right, give it another 50 years, and then until the next the 49 years until the second Yovel. Higia Yovel Hasheni velo nigala. If it still hasn't been redeemed after another Yovel, nikres retushin ad Yovel Hashlishi. Then it is called the abandon of the abandoned until the third Yovel. Leolam, and he says, let it carry on like that. Leolam ein hakohanim nichnasim lesocha ad sheyigalena acher. They cannot enter the field until somebody comes and actually redeems the field from Hekdesh, who's not from the ancestral line. And once it leaves his hand, then the Kohanim will go back to it. So again, the reason of Rabbi Eliezer is because B'hayah hasadeh b'tzeitzo b'yovel kodesh. Mashma, it's when the field leaves the hand of the redeemer in the Yovel, like any other field that a person purchased from his friend that goes out in the Yovel. So in this way, the Torah says that it should be given to the Kohanim, but not it doesn't leave the Hekdesh ever unless somebody actually comes and redeems it. Okay, and the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, the halacha follows Rabbi Yehuda that the Kohanim do get the field immediately, but they do have to pay its value back into Hekdesh. All right, Mishna Hey. Halokech sadeh me'aviv. So a son comes to his father and says, "Listen, Dad, I want to have I want to work this field. You're not doing anything with it. I'm going to purchase this field from you in your lifetime, so that he's got rights over it over all of his brothers." Okay. Now, what happens is that his father dies in between. Okay. And now the son feels motivated. He says, maybe for his father's yortzeit, he says he's going to be makdish this field. Okay. Harehi kistei achuza. This is like an inherited field, because what happened is that in the laws of inheritance, that field has become the ancestral field of him and all of his brothers. Okay, even though right now and until the Yovel, he has the rights over that field, when Yovel comes, it's going to be split up between him and his brothers. So as soon as his father dies, he's sitting on his own stei achuza. Okay, and that means that if he gets to Yovel and he hasn't redeemed it, it's going to go to the Kohanim. Hikdisha. Now, what happens if he first was makdish the field before his father died? Okay, and afterwards his father died. So Rabbi Meir says, no, this is like a field that he purchased, because when he was makdish it didn't belong to him, it belonged to his father. And remember, if somebody sells a field, if somebody has purchases a field, okay, it doesn't belong to him. He's allowed to be makdish it, but when it comes to the Yovel, it doesn't go to the temple, it goes back to the original owners, because you can't give away something that's not yours. You can only give away something that's yours, and that's where you have the stay achiza if it's his permanent property, if it's a family ancestral property. Okay, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon Omrim kistei achuza. Now I say this is also like an inherited field. Shneimar v'im es stay miknaso asher lo mistei achuza. So sadeh she'ena re'uya lios stei achuza yotzei zo shehi re'uya lios stei achuza. The pasuk is coming to exclude anything that's not fitting to become a stei achuza. In other words, if he has no inheritance claim to this field, then yeah, it's not that's when it doesn't belong to the temple. But the fact is that even if he's first makdish it and then his father dies, it makes no difference whether his father dies first or he was makdish it first. It's all stay achuza, and if he doesn't redeem it before the yovel, they lose it. Okay. Today Mikna Eina Yotza LeKohanim BeYovel. So a purchased field does not go to the Kohanim in the Yovel, She'ein Adam Makish Davar She'eino Shelo, because a person cannot give away something that's not his. Kohanim or Levim Makdishim Leolam. Now there's another difference in halach, is that this is all applying to Yisraelim. But when Kohanim and Levim have property, as they do, for example, in a Levite city, right? Are you still with me? You look like you're frozen.
No, you're frozen.
Oh, just the video froze, right? Because I also see the image of your fan in the window there, and the fan had suddenly stopped. So I thought, okay, it's not just that you're keeping still, your fan's also keeping still. Okay, Kohanim and Levim Makdishim Leolam, they can be Makdish anytime they want. But Goalim Leolam, and they can redeem whenever they want. It doesn't matter. Bein Lifnei Yovel, Bein Achar Yovel, and the Yovel does not take away their property from them. So once it enters into the hands of Kohanim and Levim, it stays with him forever and doesn't revert to Hekdesh.
Very good. Okay.
Okay.
They say
They
we keep no less than 6 inspected lambs in the chamber of the lamb, sufficient for Shabbos and for the 2 festival days of Rosh Hashanah, and we may add any number. We take no less than 2 trumpets, and we may add any number. We may take no less than 9 harps, and we may add any number, but there is only one cymbal. We have no fewer than 12 Levites standing on the platform, and we may add any number. A minor may not enter the temple for the service except when the Levites are standing in song, and they would not join in the song with lyre and harp, but by mouth, in order to add harmony to the melody. But Eliezer ben Yaakov says they do not count in the number, and they do not stand on the platform, but they would stand on the ground with their heads between the legs of the Levites, and they would call the Levites tormentors. This is to the law of Arachin, an element of leniency as well as an element of stringency. There is to the law of the Angel's field an element of leniency as well as an element of stringency. There is to the law of the Muad bull that killed the slave an element of leniency as well as an element of stringency. And there are to the laws of the violator, the seducer, and the defamer elements of leniency as well as elements of stringency. There is to the law of Arachim an element of leniency as well as an element of stringency. How so? Whether he vowed the Eric of the handsomest in Israel or the ugliest in Israel, he gives 50 selim. But if he said, I take upon myself to give its worth, he must give his worth.
Chulin.
Okay, Yud Gimel. If a firstborn animal became mingled with 100 in the case that 100 people slaughter them all, we exempt them all. If one person slaughters them all, we exempt one for him. If one slaughters for a Kohen or a Gentile, he is exempt from the gifts, and if one makes a partnership with them, he must mark the meat. But if he says except for the gifts, he is exempt from the gifts. If he says sell the entrails of a cow and they contain the gifts, he must give them to the Kohen, but he does not deduct them from the price. If he brought them from him by weight, he must give them to the Kohen, but he deducts them from the price. If one converted a cow, if it was slaughtered before he converted, it is exempt. If it was slaughtered after he converted, he is obligated. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. I said if one converted a cow, which is not right. If one who converted owned a cow, if it was slaughtered before he converted, he is exempt. If he was slaughtered after he converted, he is obligated. If it is uncertain, he is exempt because the burden of proof is on the one who seeks to exact payment from the other. What is the foreleg? From the carpus to the shoulder blade, and that is the one of the Nazir, and corresponding to that in the hind leg and the thigh. Rabbi Yehuda says the thigh is from the heel joint to the knee joint, which is the jaw, from the joint of the jaw to the opening of the trachea.
Okay.
The mitzvah, I'm giving the first of the.
That's I think we just did the end of that. No, beg your pardon. Rashis Hagez, yes, do Rashis Hagez as well. Sorry.
The mitzvah of giving the first of the fleece applies both in the land and outside the land, when the temple exists and when the temple does not exist, to the unconsecrated animals and not the consecrated ones. The stringency of the law is the foreleg, the jaws, and the more over the law of the first of the fleece is that the law of the foreleg, the jaws, and more applies to cattle and to flocks, so to many and to few, whereas the law of the first of the fleece applies only to sheep and applies only to many. Okay.
Mhm.
All right, and we are on to Iris. But hey, they are not liable to a sacrifice for the sin of hearing the voice of adjuration, nor for uttering an oath of the lips, nor for the tomb contamination of the temple or its consecrated articles. King is like them. These are the words of Rabbi Yossi Agili. Rabbi Akiva says the king is liable for all of them except for hearing the voice of adoration, for the king may not judge or be judged. He may not testify nor be testified against. For all of the commandments of the Torah for which one is liable for meaningful, willful transgressions, sakaras, and for inadvertent transgressions and a sin offering, the individual offers a she-lamb or a she-goat. The king offers a he-goat, and the anointed Kohen and the court offers a bull. For idolatry, the individual, the king, and the anointed Kohen offer a she-goat, and the court offered a bull and a goat, a bull as a burnt offering, and a goat as a sin offering. With regard to an asher tulei, the individual and the king are liable, but the anointed Kohen and the court are exempt. With regard to the definite guilt offering, the individual, the king, and the anointed Kohen are liable, but the court is exempt. For the sin of hearing the voice of adoration or the utterance of an oath of the lips, or the tomb of contamination of the temple or its consecrated articles, the court is exempt, but the individual, the king, and the anointed Kohen are liable. But the Kohen Gadol is not liable for the tomb of contamination of the temple or its consecrated articles. These are the words of Rav Shimon. What do they offer? The variable sin offering from Elia says the king offers a he-goat.
Okay.
On to Kedushin.
Hmm.
Okay, base Aleph. A man betroths a woman by himself or through his agent. A woman is betrothed by herself or through her agent. A man gives his daughter Kedushin when she is a Nara, and by himself or through his agent. If one says to a woman, be betrothed to me with this date, be betrothed to me with this one, if one of them has the value of a chucha, she is betrothed. If not, she is not betrothed. If he says with this and with this and with this, and if there is a value of a puta in all of them, she is betrothed. If not, she is not betrothed. If she was eating them one by one, she is not betrothed unless one of them has the value of a puta. If a man said to a woman, be betrothed to me with this cup of wine, and it was found to be of honey or of honey, and it was found to be of wine with this dinner of silver, and was found to be of gold, and it was found to be of silver, on condition that I am a rich man, and he was found to be a poor man, or a poor man, and he was found to be a rich man, he is not betrothed. But Shimon says if he deceives her to her advantage, she is betrothed. Be betrothed to me on condition that I am a Kohen, and he was found to be a Levi, or a Levi, and he was found to be a Kohen, and Nisanite, and he was found to be a Mamzer, or a Mamzer, and he was found to be a Nisanite, a townsman, and he was found to be a city dweller, or a city dweller, and he was found to be a townsman. On condition that my house is close to the bathhouse, and it was found to be distant from the, and it was found to be close, on condition that I have a daughter or a slave who makes braids. And he does not, or a condition that I do not have, and he has a condition that I have no sons, and he does have a condition that I have, and he does not. In all these cases, too, she said, I intended to be betrothed to him, nonetheless, she is not betrothed, and the same applies if she deceived him.
Okay.
And we have Shabbos. One who bathes in the water of a cave or in the water of Tiberias and dried himself with even 10 towels may not carry them in his hands. But 10 people may carry themselves with one towel that faces their hands and their feet, and they may carry it in their hands. We anoint and massage the stomach, but we may not neither knead or scrape the skin. We may not go down to Kodema, and we may not take it emetic, or straighten an infant's limbs, or straight set a fracture. If one's hand or foot became dislocated, we may not massage them with cold water, but he may bathe according to his usual manner, and is healed, is healed. A person may borrow pitchers of wine or pitchers of oil from his friend, provided he does not say to him, lend me. In the same manner, a woman may borrow these loaves of bread from a friend. If he does not trust him, he may leave his cloak with him and make a reckoning with him after Shabbos. So too in Yerushalayim, when the day before Passover falls out on Shabbos, He may leave his loaf with him, take his Pesach's offering, and make a reckoning with him after Yom Tov.
Yeah.
And
Toros. Last Mishnah.
very last mission. I was supposed to take something out.
Yes,
I didn't
mikvahs.
Mikvahs. Oh man.
Okay.
We're seven. We're on Zion or
Yud Ches.
the section between the rounds and the waif skins is a public domain. The section of wood he scours them and are suitable to be made tahor. But when they are made of jemi, he engages them for a full 12 months and scalds them in boiling water. And Yoshi says he puts them in the rapids of a river. It suffices.
You skipped. There's definitely.
I skipped.
Definitely skipped. Yeah. Mainly good in Lazagin, but if it's
Okay. All right. That which is behind the harvest is a public domain. That when is this? Where the public enters from his opening and leaves from that opening. Vessels of the press and of the wine press, such as the mesh basket, they are made of wood, and he scours them, and they are suitable to be made tahor. When they are made of jemi, he ages them for a full 12 months. He scalds them in boiling water, and Rabbi Yoshi says, he put them in the rapids of the river, and it suffices. Then I get me.
okay. Shkoyach Hajan Alach Masefes Toros. Mikvahs.
There are 6 grades of mikvos, each higher than the other. The first grade is water in a water hole. A tummy person drank from it, and then a tahor person drank from it, it becomes tummy. If a tummy person drank from it and then one drew from it into a tahor vessel, it becomes tummy. If a tummy person drank from it and then a loaf of truma fell into it, if he rinsed it, it became tummy. If he did not, it remains tahor. If one drew from it with a tummy vessel and then a tahor person drank from it, it becomes tummy. If one drew from it with a tummy vessel and then one drew from it into a tahor vessel, it becomes tummy. If one drew from it with a tummy vessel and then a loaf of truma fell into it, if he rinsed it, it becomes tummy. If he did not rinse it, it remains tahor.
Okay, and I'm going to run along because Slichus is 5 minutes earlier now.
Okay, go.
Bye.
Have a good day.